we'll start now, and we'll get the presentation going. Again, I want to thank Peter and his staff for taking the time to do this tonight for us. It was basically just to be able to answer some questions, to get a little bit more of a knowledge of what's going on, and to be able to let's say discuss the proposal. And I know a lot of the residents. I'm going to mute everybody. I can figure out how. Let's see. There's a lot of background noise.
I was doing my dishes, Joe.
Let me figure out that. I saw the now I saw the feature before, but I can't figure it out now. I'll figure it out as I go by. So tonight, what I just wanted to do was ask Chuck and Peter to be able to go through their proposal. I have this slide. I hope this slide is okay. If you want to show something else, that'd be fine too. I could take it down. If you think this is helpful, we can go, we can go from there. But again, I want to thank you guys for taking the time and opportunity to do this. And please, if I can ask everybody else to kind of wait to ask a couple of questions later, that would appreciate it. And let's say keep the presentation moving if you had any thoughts and you wanted to ask Peter or Chuck. So with that, I'll turn it over to you guys, and you can start from the beginning.
So as you guys can see from the plan, we have our new industrial complex here and the first phase of it. As you folks know, we bought the front 28 acres, and the first phase of that 28 acres is our new office building, which is the first building on what would be the Watervliet side entrance as you come in. The next building across the way was going to be our proposed warehouse or our proposed shop building. There's been some slight changes there with that, and I can get into that in a little bit, but that will be another rental warehouse. And then we have two other warehouses that we're proposing renting next door that hopefully we'll be starting on soon. We started earthwork, as you folks can see. The trees are down, got everything stripped, and we're getting ready to the first building to put up will be our office, so we can logistically move in this winter and get ourselves situated before the next construction season. So that will be the first building that we start on.
There's multiple phases to the whole project. As Chuck said, we bought the first 28 acres first. We now own the whole 82 or 83 acres all the way back to the arsenal. So we own all the property down there as of right now. As Chuck said, one of the four buildings out front was going to be our shop, and then our equipment area. We've actually since changed up there, and we're going to use one of the two existing buildings that are on the back 52 acres and retrofit that for our shop. We're planning on keeping a couple of those buildings up. It's our goal. The first phase are those first four buildings. It would be our goal to continue to build back. We have a master plan that's laid out. I don't know what, Chuck, 400 or 500,000 square feet over the next 10 or 12 years of industrial office space, along with a storage yard for all of our equipment and materials and what have you. You'll also notice in with the clearing, we started doing some berms that, as approved, or when we got approval from the town of Colony, they requested some berms along the Watervliet side, what's that, First Avenue, maybe over there? So we started constructing those berms to try to shield everybody from what's going on over there. Eventually, they'll all be planted with trees, and we're not planning on taking down any more growth along that road area than what's down now.
Okay. Is there anything more you want to add to that, a timetable or so, Peter?
Yeah, so Charles, this year we're hoping to have our office up, and maybe in the next couple months starting the rental warehouse across the boulevard there from our office. And then probably come spring, right, Peter, we would jump into the next two warehouses.
Yeah, if not sooner. It's our intent to get those 4 buildings up, within the next 6 to 8 months, have those buildings up. And then, we've got what we're calling that phase 1, and then we have phase 1A, which we're going back to the town to add additional buildings in that original 28 acres. But it's our intent to actually have that an industrial park, for office warehouse space.
Mayor, if it's possible, can I kind of just talk a little bit about the planning process, both in the town and some of the things that we have, that the town has in the works, how this actually complements the industrial zoning in this area? Would you mind if I gave a little overview of that?
Okay. No. Are you familiar with the town's planning process?
Am I? Yes, sir. So if I can get everyone to look at the mapping itself that's there before you, and kind of acclimate you to what's going on both in Peter's site and what's going to happen both to the north, southeast, and west of it. So if you're looking at the site now, and I'm going to say Adirondack Steel is going to be to your left, and to your extreme right will be the Strex parking lot and ball field area. And of course, to the north of the page is Watervliet, and to the south is going to be Lincoln Avenue and the residential pocket that's there. To the very south of the page that we're looking at, you're going to see below all the green area, which is the grassy area for the development site, there's a dark gray area. Through the planning process and through both Chuck and Peter's planning process, we actually have an access road planned for this location. And the intent of this is to have trucks come into the site so they stay away from the residential side, and also in the future will stay away from traffic in the First Avenue and Broadway area, Second Avenue, Third Avenue, down in the Watervliet area. Now, where I said before, that big white area to the extreme right where Strex ball field is, there is a plan for a connecting road that will go through alongside the railroad tracks, and hopefully at some day come out through Federal Express, and then out to, again, the Broadway area connecting to 787 and out. To the north of this project site that you see is a big white area that's defined somewhat by some linemen. That actually is the fire department's parcel. You see the white vinyl along that way, and that's going to be hopefully a future firehouse for them. But right now they can't do any development because of the ground that's there. But the town of Colony spent 3.5 years going through a brownfield opportunity grant and a planning process, which included the Adirondack Steel, the site that you see here before you tonight, which is now Luizzi's, and of course the Altec Steel for future development plans there. But that kind of acclimates you to the entire project site.
Thanks, Joe. All right, well, I guess if there's anything else, does anyone have a question that they might like to ask Peter or anybody here?
Yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, this is the Baker family. We have a New York State licensed daycare right along the border here where you're doing the construction and the building. I'm just curious, within the last few weeks or month or so, with all of the dirt and debris that is kicked up and falling onto our properties and on our fruits and vegetables that are growing, is there was there soil testing done to make sure that what is being thrown in the air is safe for our neighborhood and our environment?
Yes, there was. So there was an environmental study done, a phase 1 study on the first 28 acres. It was a phase 2 study.
Phase 2,
correct.
Extensive.
Sorry about that. Phase 2 study, an extensive environmental study on the front 28 acres, and everything was clean and non-harmful. And obviously, we've been dealing with some dry weather. You know, we've been doing our best to control the dust with water trucks and working with Town of Colony's stormwater department. But hopefully, we get some rain here, and it's a little less of a bear to keep up with it. But we're doing our best with keeping the dust down.
All right, second question. So I've lived in my home and bought my home about 17 years ago. And prior to buying my home, actually within the first few months of buying my home, we had a fire in one of the buildings back there that you're looking to reutilize and repurpose. And we were told to close our windows because of asbestos. Is that a concern now?
There is asbestos in, we've had an asbestos survey done in the one building that we're planning on using. And it's not a concern now because there's nothing being done with the building, but we will be having that building abated, which means all the asbestos taken out of it and cleaned up.
And when you do that, there's going to be an asbestos specialist coming in and properly tenting it to make sure our residents are safe here in Port Schuyler?
It is. They also do air monitoring and testing for that.
Are you going to continue to use the same access point in and out of the property, or are you going to be utilizing another in and out entrance here in Port Schuyler?
No, we will be utilizing the Lincoln Avenue entrances that you see on the plans.
Okay, so then originally when Town of Colony came out with the let's vote on this, we said that it was going to be no activity done on the weekends. And recently, I know it's in the construction phase, but there was activity on Saturdays. Is this going to stop the activities on Saturdays so we can have a little bit of peaceful time Saturday mornings? Because they were starting at 6:30 in the morning.
Joe, you can probably chime in a little bit because you sat on the board over there. I think the hours of operation did come in at some point, and we'd have to go back through the meeting minutes, but we are a 7-day-a-week operation for us. Not all that much on Sundays, but it does happen on time to time, and we do have trucks coming in and out. We can talk to the guys about starting earlier or not starting as early and starting at 7, but in the height of our season, like right now with the paving season, we do have trucks that are leaving, 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. We have a fleet of 18 or 20 dump trucks, lowboy trailers and equipment that move equipment at all hours. And trucks come in and out at different hours at a time. So,
but wasn't that part of the agreement when you sent out the proposition to purchase that property to build on it, that you said there was going to be nothing on weeknights and nothing on the weekends?
I don't, if I remember right, Joe Grasso, and maybe actually Steve Heider on the planning board there, Joe, that was brought up. The hours operations were brought up, and And I think we'd have to go back to those meeting minutes that they knew that we were not a 7 to 3 operation, that we worked various hours. I do know that that was a conversation that was had and brought up at one of those planning board meetings.
Well, at the
You're
planning board
absolutely.
meeting, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, at the planning board meetings, when you sent out the original letter to say, hey, let's go vote on this, it was in the letter that the company was only looking to operate Monday through Friday, be done by 5 or 6 p.m. and nothing on the weekends, which made it very desirable to say, okay, yes, let the town of Colony use that property, get their money they need, the taxes. It's an abandoned building, obviously, the abandoned property. Yes, that's great. But then all of a sudden it changed, and the town of Colony residents on this side were not notified that it was going to be a 7-day-a-week operation.
I don't recall it ever. I don't recall myself it ever being a Monday to Friday operation. I specifically know that hours operations were brought up. I'm sure we could probably go back to the meeting minutes. I mean, Joe, you were there at the time, I believe.
Yeah. Right, exactly, Peter. And that's what I was going to say. I don't remember that being a Monday through Friday operation through the course of it. And when you started looking at the conversation, also took place as the historic use of the industrial zone within the town of Colony. So I think the town, as it started to progress through the planning approvals, one from a construction standpoint, the hours of operation are typically that 7 a.m. until, the noise ordinance, which is typically about 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, depending on the time of the year. And on the weekends, a construction period was also that 7 to so time frame. Sundays were off. But as far as the hours of operation, I'd have to look back into the minutes, which I can check online as well. And certainly you can email me at work, or you could email Peter too. I think there were a number of conversations into the use of this property. But also I think, Peter, we talked a little bit about your operation on Warehouse Row, how that operation is around a family business as well, and some of the preventative stuff you did to offset or mitigate those noise operations. So we could look back into that and take a look at it.
And again, the purpose of tonight is basically not to solve it, but just to be able to hear what the proposal is, and also if there are any concerns, how to work them out and see it, right? I mean, you have to understand too, as far as Watervliet is concerned here, we don't really have the jurisdiction over any of this. We're just basically trying to help out some of the, let's say the information, disseminate the information to everybody, and kind of like see what can we do to help the process on both sides. I mean, whatever is, it's just so close to Watervliet is certainly good for us as well. But we don't want it to harm anything, that we've had, that we have here in Watervliet. So they'll send you the minutes. You can look at the minutes on that and see how they could make your concerns. Is there anyone else that has a question? Anyone else have a question? Okay. Peter, do you want to? Is there anything else you want to mention? I'm not sure what that was.
No, I didn't hear that.
Do you have anything else, Peter, to make any comments on it or anything?
No,
but I do
look,
appreciate you.
We don't want to disrupt anybody down there on the Watervliet side of the project that's going on. That's why we're trying to build big enough berms to be able to shield and hide as much noise or anything going on that side. We certainly don't want to come down there and start off on the wrong foot as bad neighbors. So we're open to any suggestions to work with anybody down there to make this an amicable an amicable move-in so we get along with everybody. We're not looking to have any problems with anybody.
I do have a quick question. Is there a time frame as to when, and I'm not really sure I know the whole scope of the project, but is there a time frame, like an anticipated end date or completion date?
No, that's a tough answer because, you know, as the traffic road, as the traffic road gets built and traffic rerouted, and we're all based on whether or not we can rent warehouse space. So, you know, we market the warehouse space and we try to rent it, but we won't build it until it gets rented. It could be 15 years or 20 years. It could be, you know, building by building by building. But that doesn't, you know, once our roadways go in and we get stabilized with actual roadways and then vegetation growing, you know, it would be like any other construction site where if we had a building that got rented, we would go in, dig foundations. You would put your foundations in, no different than building a commercial building or a house. Get the building up, typically, you know, 4 to 8 months or
Okay.
6 to 8 months long in the construction process, get everything stabilized and then done.
Okay. I was just curious. So the roads, that access road, is that the one that you're talking about to get the trucks off of, like, First Avenue? The trucks would go, I guess, across, or First Street, the trucks would go across First Street down onto Broadway, like by FedEx? Does that make sense?
Is First Street where the firehouse is?
Right here.
Yes.
First Street's actually
Yeah, we're trying.
Lincoln Avenue. So this is
I thought first was up
that's 9th.
9th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So pretty much we're what Joe was referring to. So we're not actually building the connecting road down to FedEx. That's something I think that's part of a bigger plan with Colony and planning. But the section that Joe was referring to, that's part of our development, is actually within this map where you're seeing one of the first phases of it constructed along the railroad tracks there. And as we were to build back into that 80 acres, we would continue to construct sections of that road until it's built all the way back to the arsenal.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. Great. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for participating tonight, and I'm hoping to answer some questions, and it sets up a dialogue. And if there's anything that, you know, we can do to help get the answers or, you know, take care of any of these issues.
I do have one more question.
Go ahead.
The ponds that are back there that were collecting the contaminated waste from Altex Steel and everything else, what's going to happen with them?
So those ponds, at some point, we're not aware of them collecting contaminated waste, but they are stormwater retention ponds. And through the environmental process and discussions with DEC, Army Corps, and the Arsenal, those ponds are clean, and any permitting that may have been in the past has since been closed. So those ponds, you know, the front pond, we have intentions of cleaning it up, at least the banks back, and making it more of a water feature for the front of the industrial complex.
Those ponds have been monitored by Army Corps and DEC, and as Chuck said, there's no contamination in those ponds. Now on the back 52 acres, there is some cleanup that will probably have to take place. As Joe said, they did a brownfield study. There is some cleanup that'll have to happen on the back 52 acres. Right now, there's nothing. We're not proposing anything back on there right now. We're strictly concentrating on the front 28.
But I mean,
Okay.
like to your worry, when it comes to an environmental cleanup of that nature, when we start to build back within that brownfield program, we've have other developments right now going on where we're in the brownfield program. I would say we've become kind of specialized in cleanups. We have Starbuck Island over in Green Island. That was quite the cleanup on both sides of on the Hudson River of all places. And there's engineered measures and environmental measures that are taken into account to protect the surrounding public. So there shouldn't be anything to worry about.
And in the event that something is found, will the surrounding public and neighborhoods be notified?
I don't think they,
The state would be notified, DEC, and through that, the environmental engineer. I'm not a specialist on this, but I believe they would notify anybody we legally have to notify, which would be DEC.
yeah, I don't think they necessarily go out and notify any of the homeowners or any of the surrounding people around it. The cleanup is done in a nature that is, it's done with engineers that are on site full time. DEC participates in it. There's air monitoring. There's a process for vehicles entering, exiting the site. I mean, as you can see on Starbuck Island, we just built that apartment complex on the island down there. And that was a huge cleanup down there in Green Island when we did that.
I believe too that you can go on the DEC website, and I believe they have notification lists for your area. I received notifications for this area here. Mainly they notify us all the time about what they're doing when they are working with like the Apple cleaners. So you can go on their website and they will and sign up for that service. I'm not sure if this actually gets posted to that, but I believe it does. Okay.
Yeah, and typically those sites become jurisdictional, just like the Altec, which is across the street from this location. This is still in DEC's hands because of the amount of contamination. And when they're in private hands like this, DEC does have oversight of it and continues to monitor it with the property owners. But even like I said, Altec and even Adirondack Steel for a while, it never came out of the state's hands until they have what they call a ROD, which is the Record of Decision by DEC, which talks about the contamination, the types of contaminations in there, and the cleanup practices that are presented. And then that gets converted over again to the property owner. We didn't have that level of contamination here in this site, but so DEC is in a monitoring mode versus that jurisdictional mode where they won't turn over ownership until cleanup is done efficiently.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you again. Thank everybody for joining us tonight. Again, you notice that it was recorded, so we'll put together a little video if anybody else said they wanted to get a little bit of a rundown of it. But I do appreciate your explanations and your help in with this. Thank you again. All right.
Thanks, Peter.
I'll
Yes, thank you so much.
say
Thank you.
good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Good.
You good?